Facebook or YouTube?
Almost graduated. Yes,
Hi.
we have Felicia and we have Joelle with us today. I'm so
Hey.
excited to introduce you guys our passion builders for this week. So
Woo.
we're going to start off as usual. We don't like to follow the conventional. We want to start off with making them play a very simple game. And after all, y'all are educators, so this should be easy for y'all, right? And since we are educators as well, you know how educators like to ask questions to the students. Can't run away from that. So we'll start off with that, and then we'll go on to a little bit of an introduction. We do things like terbalik, in reverse. I'm sorry, can't help it. So let's start off with this short game. So are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yes.
So
As ready as can be.
I know educators a lot of times they used to play games for the students to test them if they understand what you taught that day, right? So today is your turn.
Oh man.
too much of time. Just one by one, tell me what pops up in your head when I say that word. So we'll start with Felicia, then Joelle, Felicia, then Joelle, Felicia, then Joelle. Is that all right?
That's
Yep,
okay,
yep,
yeah.
sure.
First word, teacher.
Someone with passion and fire to teach.
Okay, Joelle.
The same word?
Yeah.
Broomstick. I don't know why.
Broom.
Okay.
God.
Maybe we'll keep it a bit more interesting. No explanation. Just give me one word.
Okay.
Okay. So Joelle first explain, and Felicia think of a word.
Oh, the word is explained. Okay.
No. I said, Joelle, do you want to explain why you said broomstick?
I don't know. I think those images of teachers from yesteryears, maybe, our parents' time, our grandparents' time, where were very strict and all that. Now you can't even shout in class. I'm going to complain about you.
I've never. Sorry, I'm not in that generation where I see teachers carrying broomsticks around yet, lah.
No. The broomstick is in the classroom. It only gets used once in a while.
Oh, okay. I never thought there's a teacher walking around carrying a broomstick.
This is broomstick, my bazooka.
Especially if you have the Indian gene, lah.
I would be thinking feather duster, but I don't know where, Joelle, you studied lah.
Not somewhere as elite as you, lah, obviously.
This whole banter going on, they know each other, and we didn't know this, right? We usually choose people from very different institutions or backgrounds, but somehow along the way in their past, they kind of, I don't know, collided or stumbled upon each other. Okay.
Humble face down.
So next word, because Felicia explained hers, so just give me one word, right, to go with the word I give you. So second word, passion.
Okay.
First word that comes to mind. Y'all are taking too long. Come on.
At
Joelle.
the same time,
Yeah.
At the same time?
Go. Oh, okay. At the same time.
Love.
Future.
Okay, why?
Who wants to go first?
You.
Who wants to go first? Okay. Because I think in order for us to build tomorrow, to have the future that we want to have, we gotta have passion. Yeah, I think passion drives the future.
Interesting. Indeed, it does drive the future. I agree with you. How about you, Joelle?
I don't know. I think passion's just another word for love. It's probably a bit more politically correct to say passion. So you got to love what you do, whether it's working or studying or just living for that matter. It all boils down to love, lah.
Love is what makes us all get all warm and fuzzy inside, right? And makes us want to do anything, right? So that's a very interesting perspective, actually, when it comes to passion, right? Okay, next word. Ready? Fast now, guys. Come on, go faster. Graduate.
On time.
On time. I like that.
I don't know why this is hard for me. Fun.
Fun. Ooh.
I think personally, I think it's a pretty fun experience when you graduate. I mean, the seriousness aside, I think the moment when students completed everything, and it's pretty much the end of the road, end of the journey for them. I think the experience should be fun because it makes them look forward to what's next after that.
Mm, mm. Joel
So
say on time.
Right.
fun
On
to on
time.
time.
You
I
better
mean,
put Joel on time.
okay. Probably because I've already gone past the on time mark for my own PhD at the moment. So GOT is on the horizon. But I'm just hoping that when someone is studying, they just go all out rather than I know things happen and you'll probably be stuck a little bit here and there, but it's always a challenge to keep the motivation going. So on time, more on to not never give up. Do it, get it done with, and move forward.
I think that's a very important point, right? Sometimes when we are graduates or we're students, right? Of course, now we're no longer students, so we're like, it's easy, just graduate. What's the big deal? But when we were students ourselves, right, there were moments like, oh my God, this lecturer, I have to deal with her. Like, I don't have think I'm going to graduate. Or, when I did my masters, I was like, what's wrong with me? Why did I think I can do this? Why am I enrolled for this? And you have moments like that, and you got to, like Joel says, right? You got to hang in there and be motivated, and you got to push yourself. Nobody else can do that for you. So I think that's an
Exactly.
excellent point.
Yeah, yeah. And that's
Very
why you should infuse some fun in it so that the experience gets something that's
True.
agree.
memorable.
Something
Yeah.
I think
valuable. Yeah.
I think when you graduate, right, especially like that whole moment where you gather around with people, it's like you've achieved something, like you've won something. You have that euphoria, right? Like
Yeah.
you've achieved greatness. I mean, but then when you actually go to the, no offense, but when you graduate and you go to the stage in USM anyway, it's like like goats, like meh, take your that just comes to mind for me. Like
Oh
you
my.
expect this glorious thing, and then it just goes within seconds. You receive it,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
huh,
Nine
that's
meters across the stage. That's all.
Yeah.
Years
I
of
like
feel it's
studying
more of
just
a
to walk
surreal.
nine
Yeah.
meters across the
Yeah.
stage.
I feel it's a very surreal experience. For me, it's a very surreal experience. It's like, oh, okay, so we're doing this. It's like I don't feel anything. I just feel like, oh, we have to go through this. This is just like doesn't
Oh
feel real at
my.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's why one some universities are so interested in introducing this e graduation thing where they get robots to take. I'm so
Mm.
against that idea. Quite honestly, I don't know who in their right mind. These people who came up with this idea would have graduated with all the pomp and ceremony, and then they want these poor kids who have slogged for 3 or 4 years to get to convo from home. I mean, what are they thinking? I don't
Yeah.
understand.
They're thinking
You
of
Well,
know,
they
safetyness
want to be
more
on
than
time, that's why.
yeah. They're
come
thinking of
again. Sorry.
safetyness.
No,
Yeah.
I mean graduating and convocation and convocations are two separate things. But
Yeah, definitely.
a convocation, it's the experience of
Yeah.
of, of the whole pomp and grandeur of it, like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
recognition that you've done something, like here you've made it. That's that
Yeah.
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
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 So
Okay.
that's
Any
very
more?
interesting what y'all have said, because it comes to the next word. I would really be interested to see how y'all evaluate, or what comes to mind when you think of success.
Oh,
Oh, that's a very long.
Reality.
Mm.
Mm.
Joel is stuck.
Joel is still trying to look for success in whatever he's doing. So
And Joel is not successful in getting something out right now.
success is okay. There's one word that I can say. I know I'm taking forever, but um, I just can't do this. Oh my god, let me see. Okay, Felicia, why not you explain your word first, and then I'll think about it.
Please,
Okay.
like good at doing that, and we'll see how we can.
He wants to go and Google search right now. Success
Google.
synonym words.
Exactly what I'm doing. Let me see.
um,
Okay,
so I think
euphoria.
Okay, yeah. Okay, euphoria. Oh wow,
Euphoria,
that's a
yes.
nice word.
Took me long enough.
Mm. Okay, then why don't you go first? Why euphoria?
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, Felicia. Well, I guess when you know the rush that you get when you are successful in doing something, and success can be so super objective. Success can be me successfully waking up at 6 in the morning, which has always been my life goal.
Mm.
You see,
Mm.
successfully
Mm-hmm.
completing at the moment I'm on this mission to do this 10,000 steps per day thingy. So
Mm.
success can also mean that my watch tells me, "Yay, you've done the 10,000 steps." It's just being it's having that sense of joy at completing something successfully, I guess.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Mm. Okay,
I think
cool,
that's a
cool.
good point. Very, very
mm.
interesting point.
It's a
We don't always
celebration.
success as small steps. You always look at it has to be something at a
I,
huge
I
leap.
Yeah,
think I think that that's something very problematic with society these days. We don't celebrate ourselves enough.
Yeah,
Agree?
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
Mm,
yeah, yeah,
It's true.
yeah.
mm.
True.
Yeah. I think that's why
True.
I thought the word reality as well. It kind of links to what Joel was saying. So it's not just the big moves. It's when you translate it into what happens in reality, and it can be the simple things that you have made a commitment to do, like what Joel said, just waking up in the morning, or okay, maybe more than that, like maybe more than just waking up in the morning. Putting your mind
That's not
towards something
Felicia's
and
standards, lah. Okay, okay.
yeah, I mean, so because and also because you could be successful at something, but then reality often changes for an individual. It's not something that can be consistent. So the way you view success as well, or the way you understand your success, it can also alter from time to time. And we gotta be able to blend ourselves into that version of reality, and yeah, and find ways to make those commitments again. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah.
mm.
True, true.
Who is Felicia? Who is Joel? What are you guys all about? Like, what's the backstory to that, right? That story of who you are, and how did you guys know you're going to be educators, or fall into this scene suddenly, right? How did that
Mm.
happen? Maybe we can start off with Joel because his eyes are really big.
Pick me,
I
Joel's
only do
eyes.
that because I realize they're really small sometimes. My God. Okay. I never thought in a million years I'd be teaching, quite honestly. I got into my first degree purely by chance because, after finishing STPM, and there was no such thing as going to ATC to study law or going to our private education. It was more towards, do whatever the government tells you to do in a government university, do whatever is offered to you. So that option of doing what I wanted, as a matter of fact, Felicia, I've been affiliated with ATC way before I actually worked there. I remember going for your previews in Penang, and I was so gung ho about it. And I went home and I told everyone that I would like to do law. And I remember my brother shutting me down. It's like, we've got no money to spend on you. So you go and wait for the government university offer. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's where I found myself doing, of all the things, agriculture business management. I had no
Wow.
idea what I was doing for the longest.
Agriculture business manager. Oh, so you manage farming.
Exactly. And you know how
That's a
cool
good
that sounds?
business.
Yeah,
Hey,
Hello, you
farming,
manage your own
especially during the
durian
pandemic.
plantation. You're rich by
Yeah.
now.
it sounds
Hello.
cool now, but not when I was 20, 21. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
21 years
you
old,
know,
they wouldn't think about, planting durian
Yeah.
trees.
Like why? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
the
true. Makes
only
sense.
the only what the only major thing that I got out from my first degree is I knew that if you were to scare a female pregnant goat, suddenly she will just immediately miscarry. That's the only thing I got. I think I can remember.
Ah.
That you should never surprise a female pregnant goat because she'll miscarry immediately. I'm not so
Okay.
sure.
Very useful information.
So
At least you
careful of
remember it
Felicia
until
around
now.
your place, Joel.
So you're a
Sorry?
very attentive student. You still remember it until now. You're a very attentive student. I don't think I
One
remember
thing.
whatever I learned.
So that was 4 years of my life, and then I was very fortunate for that matter because when I went back after graduation in 2010, I got a job in about 2 months. I was attached to this electronics company in Penang. It is an American organization. And I was suddenly in the world of supply chain management or purchasing. No idea what I was supposed to do, but you learn on the
Job.
on the road. And then I mean, after about a year and a half, 2 years, I became very content with what I was doing. So I thought that I'd actually be here. This was actually what I wanted to do. I wanted to go up the ranks, go up the corporate ladder, so on and so forth. And then the MBA offer came in from USM when I was in my second year, 2012. So I took it. I did 3 years of night classes. God knows how I
Wow.
did that in hindsight.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but I graduated in 2015, and I still remember. And this is what I always share with my students. One of the main reasons I became an educator was because I got sick and tired of really bad bosses, really bad leaders out there who had no
Mm.
idea how to deal with people, truly lacking the human factor. So I remember in 2015, I was about to graduate. I was about to finish my MBA, and then the company that I was with, which shall remain nameless for now, um,
Anonymous.
anonymous. I got this really, really weird manager who was basically a tyrant at work. So I was only there in probation for 6 months, and then before my 6 months was over, I was actually frantically looking for a job because I didn't want to be stuck there after probation. And when you're in probation, your notice is only 1 month. So I
Yeah.
remember walking down the lobby every day at work. I'll go out and I'll walk around on the phone, calling Inti Penang, calling Segi, calling all the colleges with the hope of actually getting a teaching position. And that was when I managed to push into ATC lah. You see,
Mm.
so ATC, even then the first call was not very successful, and then the second and third call, I basically pushed my way in, got an interview, thank God, and settled for about 20% less of from what I was making at the time, only because I
Yeah.
had no teaching experience. So I took it. I went into ATC, and even then it was not a academic job because I was also doing marketing for ATC for the longest time. Felicia would know that, of course. Yeah, and then from ATC, I jumped to Hang Chiang after 1.5 years. Again, dual role, what they call it, teaching and also heading the marketing department there. I never wanted to give up teaching. It was one of the most difficult things to do. Doing two roles at one time, having to
Yeah.
teach and having to manage a department at the same time is not an easy thing. But I never wanted to give up teaching because that was what I liked doing. It was not something I had to do. It was more of something I loved doing. I look forward to do every day. You see? So then, with God's grace, in 2017, I got the opportunity at INTL, and I finally found my calling, I guess. you know but I've never been the one to just want to teach forever. I've also in my future planning, I've always wanted to be able to someday formulate policies. I know I can't change the world now, like what Cheryl said earlier. The decisions I make now are not it doesn't change much, but eventually,
Slowly.
maybe not now, but maybe 5, 10 years down the road. So that was where I found, and I think it was very, very weird. Like if I would have think of myself 10 years or 15 years ago, what I'm doing now, I wouldn't have thought it possible. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Wow.
yeah, maybe Felicia,
Interesting.
how did you come to forming
But
roots?
before we go to Felicia, right?
Oh
I have
my,
something to
Calm
why,
down. Calm
why,
down.
why?
Still your turn.
So he says the only thing he remembers about his uni years was about
It's
the
a
goat.
pregnant goat. Pregnant goat.
So,
Lemon goat. Yeah.
but what he fails to tell all of us in his really lovely goat story in his uni days, our friend was covered in the newspapers. He went on an online reality TV show in 2008 and he completely blanked it out. How?
He just skipped
Well,
the part. He just skipped that part.
that story has been repeated so many times that it's now I don't want to talk about it anymore. But yeah, that's also something that I've been very uh, That was something I used to peddle when I started working. It's not something I'm going to tell after 10 years. Yeah, but yeah, it was an online reality show. It was something like The Apprentice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but it was only among university students. And I still remember I was not the favorite to actually go in because the person who was recruiting participants at that time, he didn't even look at me. He looked at my totally hot female friend who was beside me at that time. And he was so interested in getting her to join that he eventually took the form for me as well. So I was not actually so interested in joining it, but it was one of the best experiences I've ever had lah, in my in
Wow.
my 4 years studying. Yep, yep.
Why I brought that up is because the show was what you said, right, was basically the show gave you a bit of a taste of the corporate boardroom as a student, and then you went and joined the corporate world, and now you want to create, I mean, you want to mold managers, right? So I just thought it was very interesting, that journey, from then to now. I thought that really,
Mm.
like, it's a
Yeah.
full circle sort of thing.
So
It's
you're
kind of
saying that
In the boardroom.
Joel will be the next Trump love.
Oh my God, please. Oh good Lord.
funny.
Hey, he started off as apprentice as well, you know.
Oh good Lord, please. I
Then
think
now he's the
please,
president of the United States, you know. Don't play
you,
big, you know. You want to change
you,
policy?
you. I think the words president and Trump do not belong in the same sentence, but never mind.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, Cheryl, echoing what you
success is
said, when
reality.
when when I was when I was in the boardroom back when we were doing the show and all that, it was, but it showed a very benign, harmless version of the corporate world because you're a
Yeah.
student, everyone wants to give you a chance, you know. And but that's why when I went into the corporate world, I went in wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. I thought that there'll be fairness all around. People will be more than interested to help me in my journey, and I was sorely disappointed. It's just not like that. People are not inherently nice for no reason. See? So
So
if
they
it's
give a very rose tinted kind of
my glasses were so rose tinted, I couldn't see what was in front of me. You know, people talk about going through racism, which has been something I've got to. I mean, one of the reasons why I came out of Penang because racism, unfortunately, is very, very inherent in Penang.
Very true.
Unfortunately,
oh, I didn't know that.
unfortunately, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very. It's in the fabric of society somehow, and it's been something that I've been struggling for a very long time. But surprisingly, KL, my God, KL is like a breath of fresh air. I've tasted my first taste of pure meritocracy when I came to KL, not when I was in Penang. So I've been through racism. I've been through sexism. All right, being in an organization dominated by only one gender, having to struggle so much to get my views heard and my opinions, given due thought and all that. So yeah, I mean,
And that's
as you
very
said,
rare to hear actually.
which part?
Sexism part.
It
I think
is. It
that's a
is.
bit
I mean,
rare, right? It's a
I
bit
think it is,
rare.
but I think it's also because many men don't want to talk about it. It's not something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you
I
look
mean,
at that reporting,
I mean, usually I feel that usually we feel it more compared to
oh my God,
not
no.
no offense, but
Yeah.
it may
It's
I
because
guess
people
it
don't speak up about it. That's why.
yeah I guess
Exactly,
so. Yeah,
exactly.
true,
But you
true.
see, my first organization, my first department was so racially imbalanced. You
Mm.
see, but then my first manager was a lady, and she was the sweetest lady ever. I still remember her. Her name was Titi. She was this sweet lady who is an example of the nicest manager that you can always have, and I actually use her as an example in class a lot nowadays. So
Shout out to
I was under a woman at that time, and she was a fantastic manager. My second organization, I was under a man, didn't turn out that well.
Mm-hmm,
um,
mm-hmm.
when I was in ATC, then I think Felicia can put two and two together. So yeah, I've been on both end of the spectrums. I've tasted what it was to be under male leadership, which had
Mm.
its pros and cons. I've also tasted how it's felt to be and the female leadership, which also has its very noticeable pros and a lot of cons, quite honestly. So yeah, and my current leadership is also female, and I've not had that problem. So yeah, it has been something I've gone through in the past, but it's reality nonetheless.
Hmm.
Mm, mm.
What about you, Freddie? How was your journey, right, in becoming an
Mm.
educator? Was it something you always thought you would do, and how did you end up here?
No, it's something that I never thought I would do. Like seriously, when
Felicia's
because
always pay attention.
because because I studied in USM, right? So same thing lah, after STPM, the only place that we could go, or one of the best places that we could go, was our local universities, and then we had to fill up like the form, eight top universities or eight top fields that you want to go into and be a part of. And I will always I never wanted to put education or anything of the sort. So what I actually wanted to go into when I was doing my STPM was mass communication. That's what I wanted to go into, mass comm. And I had this like aspiration to be a journalist someday. And I always remember my mom saying, "Don't you ever take that role, because I don't want you to be in some country where you're going to be bombed, and they're going to send your body back to me," and something along those lines. So I was like, fine, coming from a family where Indian family, you have to respect your mom and stuff like that. I love my mom, but yeah, that was something that she pointed out. Yeah, because I was very interested in current issues, in social changes, and I always wanted to be a part of that social change, or the social movements and whatnot. But then, so one thing that I took up when I was in STPM was actually literature. So literature and English was the subject that I took up, and I was the only student in my school that had that, and I had to study it outside. I had tuition for that instead of studying it under the school, but then I sat for the exam anyways. So when it came to applying for the university, I noticed that okay, USM has this particular course, so it's English language and literature studies. So I'm like, okay, it's not just all English. There's still some literature going on there. So okay, I don't have to be a English teacher when I come out. So that became, like, if I'm not mistaken, like my fifth or sixth option. The first like five options was mass comm from different universities. But then, of course, the universe somehow or other noticed only literature, and then threw me into the pit of literature studies. And my 3 years in university, I mean, I grew to love the subject. I love teaching lit. I love studying lit. But I will always say, no, I'm not going to be a teacher. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to do anything with the education line.
So you
Because
want to be a writer?
yeah, that was like the next option other than becoming a journalist, to be a
Mm,
writer, to go into
yeah,
writing.
yeah.
And then when I came out, I applied for writing positions. So I approached some of the big companies, the big names. Blue Ink was one of them, but all these companies turned down the
Application.
me wanting to go, yeah, because they wanted people with experience. So it was
Yeah.
frustrating at that stage, because you're like, yeah, I want to gain experience. How would I gain experience if you don't hire me? That sort of thing. And so then finally I found this position at ATC to be a literature lecturer. And then I was like, okay, since I have literature as a background, let me apply lah. Let me see what happens from there. Never would have thought that when I started actually teaching students literature, that this would be the thing I wanted to do the rest of my life. To make it less dramatic, I mean, for now, lah, yeah, like what I wanted to teach lit, and to teach lit in particular, because literature is such a, I often think people misunderstood the subject, because people always think that studying literature means you're studying English, but actually it isn't. It's actually a lot to do with analyzing, about having your interpretation, having a voice to speak up about issues that you think relates to the text that you're studying, that sort of thing. And for me to be able to convey that to students and watch them take up the mantle, or to take up having their own voice to speak up or to share their own experience, that was something very different and very powerful for me. And yeah, and ever since then, as you all know, I've been here for the longest time. I'm still taking literature, and I've moved up as well from being a lecturer. Then I was a deputy head for one of the departments, and then now I'm the head of the department. So I manage a department, but at the same time, I still teach. And yeah, and just to be able to be a part of a student's journey, to see them go through their academic pathway, and like when you can build relationships with them, and then you get to see what they do in their life, and then when they come to you, they share their experiences with you. I think that's the privilege that we have as educators. To me, I find that as a privilege. So yeah, then ever since then, I'm here. I still am teaching, being a part of the students' journey wherever they allow me to be.
Mm. I always enjoy my English literature writing classes. I had it as a elective. I think two
Right.
subjects about writing
Yeah.
and English literature. I enjoyed it very much actually,
Mm,
but it's
mm,
really
mm.
because of the way how my
Yeah.
lecturer conducted it. It really gives you the kind of like feeling, hey, I can do something out of this. I can write something out of
Yeah.
this. It's like, yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice to hear. It's nice to hear when students enjoy that subject, because yeah, not many people pick that subject. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's nice to hear that. Yeah.
It's like history, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody kind of hates it. So if you find someone who loves history because of the teacher, I think in
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
you've got like
I'm one of the weird one.
you
Yeah,
should go in
because I also
in
enjoy.
Oh
history.
my
I
God,
enjoy.
history. Oh,
I
I
enjoy
wish.
history.
I mean, a lot of times because I wish I was doing a PhD in history. Quite honestly, my God, it's my. I wish. I mean, I'm thankful that I'm doing what I'm doing at the moment. But if I ever had an option to do something else, it's definitely going to be something about history.
Wow,
Mm.
very
Mm,
interesting.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
hard to find people who are interested in
Yeah,
history.
yeah, yeah.
I love history. I
Then you should
enjoy
take
it.
up literature as well, because it kind of
Yes,
connects
yes.
to
It
going
kind of
back
connects.
to,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. It
You get to
connects. It
study
connects.
all the periods, all the earlier
Good
Mm,
tutors,
existing periods. Very
tutors,
beautiful.
I
very
don't
good
want to
yeah.
step.
tutors.
I don't want to step on your toes, lah, Felicia.
We can
Well,
ask
if you step
her.
on my toes, then I have
Yeah.
someone to share this joy with, and
Yeah, so she can be your personal mentor to mentor you about the world of literature that will help you in your PhD.
My, my.
yeah,
That's a very good point, right? When you talk about what you've done, Felicia, right, is you've taken a subject that people don't necessarily like. And I think not just you
mm,
or Joel, but there are a lot of lecturers out there, the really passionate ones who take a subject and they completely change your mind on it, right? So when you look at something, it does not, it's not just about mass comm, it's not just about literature, it's not just about business. It becomes something completely different. It means something
mm,
greater and bigger and better. And it
mm.
translates into life lessons, it translates into things coming alive, and that's when they enjoy that journey, right? And
Yeah,
we've talked about something very serious in your journey and things like that, right? So I'm going to dial it down a little, and I'm very interested because Felicia said something about fun earlier, right? So I think this is a fun thing. I would love to know, I'm sure you guys know by now, you've been teaching for many years right now, what do your students associate you with? Like, what is one word if they think of Philly or Joel or even Selsan? I would love to hear.
Oh,
What is one word you?
The fact is, I wouldn't know because I don't want to ask them. I don't dare to ask them. I usually like keep keep your thoughts to yourself.
yeah.
I don't want to know. Yeah.
You
I,
heard, right? Overheard.
Actually, for me, when I was starting, because I'm starting, right, so I have to have that, like, okay, um, yeah, I have to have this very serious look, and also a lot of
I
my
know what I'm
students, I
talking
think,
about, kind of thing, right?
yeah. So I have to like show that at some
Yeah.
point, and
Yeah.
some more with that subject. So I still want my students to take me seriously and not like sleep off in class and stuff. So they used to say I'm very fierce in class. Okay, and yeah, that I
It's
was
okay,
a
Felicia.
fierce
It's okay,
teacher.
Felicia. I share the same thing as you do as well. So
Oh
don't
man,
worry.
yeah. So I used to like, because especially in class, I cannot tolerate if while I'm talking there's like chit chat or side talking at the back. So that used to really irritate me. And then when I would voice it out, so I get labeled as like fierce. Oh, you gotta be careful with this Felicia. She's very fierce, if you're taking her subject. And then yeah, so that like followed me for quite a while. But then yeah, other than that, yeah, I used to get them saying that I'm very connected to them, that I can connect with them. So that's nice. That's nice to hear. Sorry.
Yeah.
We've got proof of that from our last show. We brought in one of Felicia's.
Yes.
So we've got
Yes,
documented live proof.
Melissa. Did she say anything about me? Oh man.
She shout out you. She say, hey, one of the lecturers that I remembered. Yeah.
She used to get it from me back then. I wasn't easy on her
She,
because
she, she
I always
admitted, no, because
yeah.
she also admitted that she's not a very good student as well.
Yeah. But I never gave up on her, and
Yeah,
I
this
don't
is
give up
true.
on my students. I think as educators, that's something that we carry with us. We don't give up on our students, no matter how difficult. We
Agree.
go with the challenge, and we find ways to manage them and somehow or other be effective with them. Yeah.
Yeah, true. So
Joel,
Joel,
she is like taking all the information and
So yeah, what
I just
word? What word, Joel?
Okay, so Felicia had to work a lot to get people to take her seriously lah. I still don't know how with your hairstyle at the moment, but quite honestly, being fierce, being fierce has never been something I've had to ever work on because, as you can see, it comes naturally. All right. So whenever it's always very comical. Whenever I start the semester, the first week will be all like pin drop silence when I go in class, and I like to work with them on that. I go in class really like
no
uh,
smiling.
and
Yeah.
and and yeah. But then when the second week comes, it's all fun and games and so on and so forth. So I think that's probably a welcomed misconception, lah. Not only my students, rather everyone that I've met after a couple of weeks or a couple of months of hanging out, they're like, I never knew you were so no, you were so chatty, you were so friendly.
Yeah.
We always thought you always had something on your mind that you didn't like to talk to people, but what can I do? I'm built like that, right or not? So
Evidently.
yeah. So yeah, that's the biggest thing that people always think, which is not the case, lah. But I'm 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 not the kind of person who is very comfortable going and chatting with everyone. But
Mm.
I like to take my time. I like to observe, and sometimes that gets misconstrued as being unfriendly or fierce or whatnot. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
so for the students listening, pay attention, right? You don't judge a book by its cover. You see, Mr.
Mm.
Joel, very
Mm.
chillax guy. Don't play. Just have to
Oh
give him.
yeah, but I'm sure some of you. I mean, of course, Cheryl, my our ex colleague Maninda.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Menin.
So Meninda's my soulmate lah. From I mean, for the longest time, and she is the one thing that I miss from KL all the time. But she used to make fun of me because sometimes I used to get her into class to evaluate students of presentations and all that. And she'll say, oh my God, Joel, you're so anal about the smallest things because I'm really very concerned about their margins, about their
Mm,
spellings, about their
mm.
citations and their references. And then Meninda's like, why are you looking at all of that? Why are you so concerned?
Yeah.
Well,
You
you're
know,
not alone in that as well. You're not
I
alone in
think
that
we
as
are
well.
all like this
We are
yeah.
lah.
all,
Hey, you
yeah.
see, for whoever's listening there, it's not that I'm being anal, but the thing is, these kind of things,
Yes, what
margins and
is very
spellings and layouts,
important.
they build character. It's not only the
Yes,
content of your work, it's
yes,
how you
Yeah.
present them. You might have
yes,
really good content, but if your margins all over the place, no one's going to be interested to read your work,
yeah,
Yeah.
you
exactly.
know.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So
I have students coming and asking me, do you have like, in your mind, do you have this machine that's built that you can detect spelling errors
Yeah.
just like that? Because I can just look at what
Yes,
they're saying,
yes,
the
we do.
physics here, the physics here, the physics. I was like, Miss, how can you do this? I say, I cannot believe kids using Microsoft Word.
exactly,
They literally
Yeah.
underline to you if it's spelling
Yeah.
error,
Yeah.
and they still cannot
Yeah.
change it. That part I cannot
and you
comprehend.
see
So
kids like now because in INTI we don't have face-to-face exams going on,
mm,
so we have
mm,
something called alternative assessments, right, where
yep.
students do take home
Alternative
tests at home.
options. Yes, right.
Mm.
Yeah. So what they do is they've still got to write their answers on a piece of paper, and they use their handphone, which is this app called the cam scanner.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
So the
Yeah, I
cam
know that.
scanner basically takes a shot of the script and converts it into a PDF document immediately. And then they upload that. And my
Yes.
God, I've been marking for the past 1 week the amount of things I see being uploaded. You're only supposed to take a shot of your script. I see fingers, I see highlighters, I see glasses of water. Oh my God. They actually take the entire table and then they submit that as their final exam script. My
Yeah.
God. I mean,
Wait till you see their handwriting. That's another struggle that you're
that's
getting into.
another that's
Yeah.
another headache altogether.
They just want you to have a feeling of where they're at, like their environment, their
Yeah.
presence. They want to be
Yeah.
connected to you personally.
Oh my
Yeah. Yeah.
God. I mean, these are supposed to be millennials, people who were born with a smartphone from the moment they came out from their mom. But, that's the thing. They can't even take a simple shot of their script. And I have to get to
I
see
get that
fingers
as
and
well.
highlighters and
Yeah,
pens.
I know
My
that.
God.
I remember I was asking my students to do a journal submission, and they were like taking like, where's the paper? I only see a table. Where's the paper? Then I just scroll.
Look at that.
I don't know where the hell am I scrolling until it's like, oh, so it's over there. Oh my god.
But
Exactly.
I agree with you, Joel, when you say that these things,
Yeah.
though we are like picky and anal about it, but it actually builds their characteristics. Like one characteristics, I would say that whole thing of like getting everything proper, and put it out there. I would say would be responsibility, like having the responsibility of yourself, your work, how
Yeah,
you're showing up, how you're
yeah,
presenting. So I think,
yeah,
yeah, I think if
And,
you're
and also,
picky,
I think most importantly also, it's about doing your best.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not doing things halfway, not doing things half baked. You're doing your best. So if you've got a lot of my students have, I mean, a lot of them have really good content. They have really good
yeah,
ideas, but it's all about
Mm-hmm.
packaging it as attractively as possible.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of times I always remind my student is like, oh, miss, can I actually submit this? Can I actually submit that? They're so worried to submit. And I always tell them, please reread. And if you're
Yeah.
confident, submit it. If you're confident, you submit it. The kind of thing. It's like, I have to
Yeah,
remind them
yeah,
to
yeah,
tell them,
yeah.
when you're confident enough, you
Yeah.
can submit it. Because a lot of times they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I just want to just finish, just submit it and get over it, be done with, so I can do other things, the kind of thing. So I guess
Mm.
that's what they're thinking of. So it's really like what Felicia you're saying, like it's like taking on responsibility when you submit something.
Mm.
This is literally what you are putting your marks at stakes, and then if you're
Mm-hmm.
confident enough that you're getting what you want,
Yep.
you have submitted, that's what you'll get. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep,
Yep. Yep.
yep.
Yep.
True,
So
true, true.
coming to that, right? I want to give you all a quote of someone saying this, right? They say that great teachers, right? Great teachers show us things about ourselves that we ourselves can't see. How do you guys
Mm.
think that applies to what you do today in your respective positions, or what you teach, or even your everyday interaction with students, right?
Mm.
What do you think
Mm.
about that? Great teachers show us things about ourselves that we ourselves can't see.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true because as teachers, it is our responsibility to educate them. So we don't just do that in an academic sense. There's a lot that goes in when you are being with them. So for whatever duration you have with them, you are actually going to be a part of their lives. That's how I take my role when I'm doing this. So I would say yes, and that would also mean it is up to me as well to point out if there are things that I see that they can't see, if there are blind spots for them. But I notice this, and I notice how they are showing up to their classmates or to the people out there. Then it's also my responsibility to sort of like get in there. It can feel a bit nasty. It can feel a bit uncomfortable to do that because sometimes you also want the students to like kind of like treat you like, okay, yeah, we're cool and stuff. But no, if we only go in that direction, then if there's something that is there, they are gonna have the bad side of it. So I would say, yeah, yeah, that is absolutely true.
Mm, mm,
What about you, Joel?
I think that college and university students, they are at a very vulnerable stage of their lives. It's either sometimes it's as bad as make or break. It's a moment in life where they either make it big, or
Hmm.
I mean, you can see since since the MCO started, the number of what the mental health issues have been increasing. you
Yeah.
know and
Yeah.
it's very worrying because it's getting more and more, especially among the younger set. You have
Mm.
kids in university and colleges who find it so difficult to go through life. Compare this with our grandparents, or on the generation of yesteryears who had
The
it tough
broomstick
at
teachers
that
times.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think people should understand that the challenges 50, 60 years ago are very much different from the challenges our kids are having at this moment.
Definitely.
So when it comes to, I find the position of an educator to be a very sacred position, because I went through, when during my first degree, oh my God, I think, some of us who have studied in a government university, sometimes there's no one there to hold your hand most of the
Yeah.
time. I've gone
You
through
know,
Yeah, I've gone through semesters where I was in tears, and I had to beg my lecturer for that extra opportunity. And I've gone through all of this. So when I became an educator, my one vow was I would never abandon any of those who I taught. You see,
Mm.
those under me. I would never just push them and not give a damn.
Yeah.
It's a very vulnerable time in their lives, and as much as possible, I would like to, um, of course, not guide them explicitly as to what to do and what to what, but to just be there when they need someone. You see, so
Yeah.
teaching, at the end of the day, teaching is not something, as what Felicia said, as it's not something just academic. There is
yeah,
a pastoral quality to it, and I think that pastoral quality is what a lot of, unfortunately, is something some educators lack. They think teaching is all about doing 9 to 5, teaching, 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 and forgetting about it at the end of the day. No, it is
yes,
about being on the journey with your student from the time they start,
Yeah.
and feel that utmost sense of joy and pride when they eventually graduate. That's what
Yeah.
I look forward to every year. That's why I enjoy
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
competitions.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move a little bit because my battery is going to be running out soon. I'm going to move, so just continue talking
Yeah.
while I
Yeah.
move.
Sure. Sure. I
So
I, I
while
like to
moving,
I like to
we can see
say,
your view of your house as
yeah,
well.
of wherever you are at.
I'm trying to give you. I'm trying to give you as a mini.
Tour.
Yeah. Tour.
Joel, if you really wanted us to see your crib, like MTV cribs, like almost graduate cribs, why you're behind
Exactly.
my battery die?
No, no, my battery is. I'm actually trying to get my charger. You're going to have one. You're going to be one presenter short if I'm not successful in the next 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, talking about all this, right? When y'all talk about what we are showing students, right? Sometimes you need to kind of find that balance, right? We talked earlier about us being anal sometimes, like this is the formatting. Like for me, it has to be justified. If it's not justified, I don't read it. I can't. I will just go crazy. I tell them, guys, I'm not reading one script. I'm reading like 50, hundreds. So justified or I'm not reading it. So yes, we can be anal and things like that. But in that process of kind of guiding them, right? How do we give students the courage to find their own way, not by spoon feeding them, but at the same time giving them just enough guidance to show them that what they consider to be impossible or perceived to be impossible is actually anything but that. How do we do that? How do we find that fine line, the balance, right? With being strict, because sometimes, like you said, right? Oh, they look at you and they say you're fierce, and I have the same problem as well. One student told me when and I don't have to say very much. I just look at them, and I remember one student said, "Miss, when you look at us, it's like your eyes are piercing into our soul." That kind of thing.
That's just your hair, Cheryl. That's just your hair.
Now I have this. So how do you find that balance whereby you are still being strict, you're still teaching them those life lessons at the same time, you're not spoons, like feeding them everything, you're still giving them that tools to kind of survive on their own. Without us, they still can survive and do well. How do we find that nice balance, and what do you guys do to get that balance? What you've done maybe in the past, or maybe that you can share with us, so at least students can also understand, right, where you guys are coming from and why we do the things we do sometimes. They think we're doing it to them. Actually, we're doing it for them.
Mm.
True, true, true. Um, from okay, maybe I'll just share this with you, and this is something I've kept to myself. I mean, since the day I heard it, there's this one person at one of the places that I taught at before, which again shall remain anonymous. And she's quite high up there. I know she was not merely a lecturer, but she was actually in a quite influential position, and she had this habit of dividing students into the intelligent ones and the not so intelligent ones, and but the thing is, she's actually a very nice person, and other than that one comment, I liked her a lot for that matter. But that one comment kind of made it it changed my perception, because for me, and this is a principle that I've always held true, as an educator, there is no such thing as having a stupid student. I don't think the word stupid should even exist in your dictionary for that matter. You know, Human beings are blessed with a variety of things that they are good at. So for my kids who are probably not very good at math, they might be excellent at art for that matter. If they're not really good in speaking, they might be very good with numbers for that matter. So I think the most important thing is for educators is first and foremost get it out of your mind that there is this group that's very intelligent, very smart, so to say, and there is this group which is not very smart, or some would even call stupid. No, some are academically inclined,
Yes.
some are more practically inclined, perhaps. So it's all about me making that student. I feel that the student must have that trust on you, that what you are doing is going to be. And I've been very fortunate over the years. Whenever I finish the final class for the semester and I give my whole speech about, okay, everyone, being typically Malaysian lah, when we give a farewell speech, we'll say, please forgive me if I've ever said something or done something that would have, ruffled feathers or would have hurt you in any way. I've always had your best interest at heart. And I've been very fortunate to get a lot of very sweet messages in return, about, sir, oh my God, you've never been there, you've never done that, this, that, and all that. So I think it's very important for an educator to establish that trust with their students. All right. And so that when you have established that trust, you can then very gently and very indirectly steer them in the direction that they would excel in. It doesn't necessarily need to be academic. It doesn't necessarily need to be academic in nature. It can be something that they are really good at. It's about believing in them. I mean, you never tell a child, "Hey, stupid, you don't understand." I mean, that's the Indian gene in me talking again. But I would never do that to a child. Why
Yeah.
would I do that to a 21 or a 22-year-old uh,
Yeah.
student who is at a very vulnerable stage of their life? It's
Yeah.
about treating them as a fellow human being, treating them as a valuable member of society. For me, my students are just there. They're just performers. They're going to be blinding the world with their talent and with what they have to offer. It's just a matter of time. Everyone comes with their very own package. I think that's very important to establish, to let everyone know that no matter who you are, just because you don't conform, it doesn't mean that you are deficient in any way. You are still as valuable as anyone else.
I agree. I mean, I have, students coming and telling me, sometimes I don't know why, when I was taking this subject, and then I do not understand this lecturer at all. What are they talking about, and I don't understand why is it like it feels as if the person is picking on me and stuff like that. And I always tell them, I say that, well, at the end of the day, you have to pass through this subject in order for you to move forward, right? So why do you want to make yourself so difficult to go through this subject when you can just try to understand and have a more open-mindedness when you go through the subject? Perhaps from there you might actually be able to learn things better than just blocking yourself from this person or this lecturer per se. So yeah, a lot. It needs to actually shift them into thinking, a different kind of view and perspective when seeing things actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Different kind of mindset, perhaps.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, correct. Yeah,
I think the untapped potential, that's a very important point, right? All of us have potential. It's just whether we've tapped into it or we haven't. If we've polished it or we haven't. So it's just a matter of who believes in our potential enough to help us kind of reveal it, right? Like,
Yes.
oh, this person has revealed it to me. It's not that it wasn't there, it was been there all along. It's just that someone has like clicked the right button to let it out and let it reveal itself to the world, for example. So I think
I
that's a
mean,
very good point when it comes to
wouldn't that be a very beautiful thing to see, to hear that, wow, you actually made me believe in myself. You know,
definitely.
you gave me something that propelled me forwards. You made me, most importantly, you made me believe in myself. I think that is probably the most valuable thing you could ever ask of a person.
true,
I
Mm.
think
true.
when I started teaching, right, Joel? I mean, I started teaching when I was very young. Like I was like fresh out of college when I started teaching. This is back in like 2006, right? I was teaching certificate, of course, because that's my qualification. At that point, I only could teach certificate. And at that point, I didn't realize the things that I said and how you impact students. Years later, when students come and say, "Do you know you did this and you said this, and it made me feel like I am like on top of the world, and I felt I was so important." I was like, "Really? Yeah?" Like
Mm.
me just saying that
Yeah.
make you feel that, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not just that, sometimes they come back to you and tell you things like, Miss, I think you can do anything. I'm like, no, I can't really, no, Miss, the way you put it, right? It's like this. I don't imagine in my head there's anything you can't do. They have certain impressions of you because of what you put out and how you motivate them and bring them up. And
Yes.
anyone who's been in my class or even Selsa knows or heard of what I do in class as well. I'm not the nicey type in class, I put them in their place sort of thing. So for
Right.
me to have students give me that kind of feedback, I'm like, really? Yeah? Like
Mm.
that's what you guys got. Like I was amazed. So I think it's very interesting. But of course it took time to find that balance, being strict but being connected, being
Yes.
strict, but
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
key
Yeah.
point for me is they know we care. When they know we
Mm.
care,
Yes.
the way they look at
Yes.
things.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Mm. Okay, I think Cheryl's line got connected off halfway through. Don't
Oh my.
worry, don't panic.
Yeah.
I'm here to save the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let me continue off from Cheryl,
Yeah,
because I was just
yes,
thinking about
please.
it as you guys were sharing. I was just
Yeah,
thinking about it, because with what she asked is like, how do we, how do we keep that balance, right? Like, how do we guide them, but at the same time
yes.
I like to
How do you
think
do
of
the
us as
balance? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I like to think of us as safety nets, because in most situations that they are in, the challenges that they will face,
Face.
whether it is with themselves or with their classmates or even with the lecturers that they are dealing with, or even with us directly. If at that point of stage we needed to be that person that is firm with them or strict with them, I like to think that at the end of the day, we still become their safety nets in a sense
Mm.
that they will, when they face something, they can fall back on us.
Yes.
Yes.
But then you don't do much with that situation. You
Mm.
fall. They have a place where they can fall. They can
Mm.
and then they can find a way to come
Learn.
back up.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, and they learn to find a way to come back. So I like to see us as that, like,
Yeah.
safety nets
I
that
mean,
guide
yeah.
students to be that
That's very
way. Yeah.
and
interesting. Yeah.
and that makes a lot of difference, knowing at that very vulnerable moment that, if you were to anything were to happen, you have someone to fall back on. Because
Yes.
again, that is the age where, I mean, there are the very popular confident kids again. But
Yeah.
again, the popular and confident ones, as we've seen throughout the years, sometimes there is something deep down inside which is unfulfilled, and being
Oh,
confident is just a way of covering it up.
Correct. Correct.
exactly. The image. Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
Correct.
I totally understand. I totally gel with what
Agree.
Felicia is saying. It's that is what educators should, because at the end of the day, this is a job. It is not a job. It's a passion. It's, for me,
Mhm.
it's a vocation. You know,
Mhm.
teaching is not a 9 to 5 thing that you go again and forget about it. No, it's something that's ongoing. It's a journey, and it's very sacred. Not everyone
Yeah.
is blessed to become an educator. If you find yourself in an educator's shoes, you are incredibly blessed, and you can only do that by wanting to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Agree,
and, and
agree.
Joel, just want to add to what you said about, because I hear it as well. Sometimes I get people coming and telling me, or colleagues coming and telling me, hey, the student is like damn stupid lah. The student doesn't get it. The student needs to be dropped out from the college or the subject or something like that. And I agree. There's no such thing as a stupid student. Students can be frustrating. They can be frustrating. They can be annoying. They can have that kind of like hurts in them. But if somebody were to tell me that the student in my class is stupid, I would say, well, you're not doing a good job. You are
Mm-hmm.
not doing something about that. The reason why the student is that way is because of how you are showing up. So I constantly remind myself of the same thing. It is also about how I show up and how I'm able to guide that student in a
Yeah.
particular way. And if something is not working, if my students are failing or not getting the grade that they desire to get, then I also have to look into myself and like, okay, which area am I lacking here, or how can I make this better? So yeah, I get annoyed also when I hear people say stuff like that about students. Yes, they can go up. Stupid is not a thing,
Sometimes
and it,
is the backstory as well, right? We often focus so much on the academics. There's actually a reason to why they are failing. Sometimes it's
yeah.
nothing to do with academics at all. And
Mm-hmm.
when I started teaching like that, I mean maybe 15 years ago, it was very different, right? The understanding or culture was don't get too close to your students. Now it's completely
Yes.
changed. Now get close to your students. Then it was unprofessional. Now you're a fantastic lecturer if you're connected to your students. I mean, it's changed so drastically. Those days, it was considered being unprofessional if you knew those kind of things. But I
That's
guess
true.
it's something to realize that having that connection is important in understanding the students. When you understand your audience better, they learn
Yes,
better, right? You
Yeah.
teach
exactly,
better
Yeah.
as well because you know what
Yeah.
exactly.
makes them tick, what they can, grasp better. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's really great. I mean, one thing I want to talk to you guys about before we finish today, right, is because why I chose both of you is because I feel that, and as I said, I never knew that you guys were connected to each other.
I know why you chose Felicia's hairstyle, right?
Felicia's hairstyle is better than Joel's at the moment, so that's why
It's,
I need
it's
to balance
always
it
been
off.
better, Felicia. It's always been better.
What is maybe one project, because we don't have much time, right? Can you tell me one project that you've done? It could be any time in your career as an educator, right? Either on campus, as in something done for your university or college, or even something you've done outside, you feel that helps you with your mission in becoming a better educator for your students. Maybe what you've done for them that when you do it, right, they go like, oh, this is some lessons that as a student I can learn from Joelle or Felicia. Maybe just pinpoint for me one project. I'm sure you'll have done like loads.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Joel, go.
After you, Felicia. After you.
Okay, so I do have
I'm
one
always under
significant
your
one.
shadow when it comes to things like this. Lah. Your shadow.
So I have one that I did years ago, and I think I'm not sure if Jaleesa brought this up because she was a part of it. And I know that it was something that boosts her confidence and sort of like, yeah, I mean, she is where she is who she is because she took that chance to take up this role in this project. So teaching literature, which is only an A level subject, basically there's nothing much that you can do. But what we decided to do is to organize a play based on one of the texts that they were studying. And instead of
Oh,
doing it just inside the college, we wanted to, well, I mean, like I brought this up, I wanted to make this big, to give students the opportunity to
have
really
the
be a
feel.
part of something that is different, yeah, and have that feel, and put themselves out there, challenge themselves to go further. So we organized this play, if I'm not mistaken, in 2011, and it was held at Matic. And yeah, and we invited people. We sold tickets for it, and the proceeds went to a I think it was Hope Foundation. Yeah, so students picked the foundation. They knew where they wanted it to go to, and yeah, so I gave them that choice of like deciding, coming up with the project and stuff like that. And yeah, and they had to. And these are law students that come in for law. APT is known for law, so they come in for law. And these kind of things are, if you wouldn't think that these are things that they would enjoy. And so it was
Mm.
it was so fun to see how they would screw up the first part, and when they were starting to like become the characters and all that. But when they really took it and made it their own, that ownership that they had, that power that they had, and of course all the students did really well in their exams at the end of the day. So it was like a balance of academics and also something for them to remember that they put themselves out there and they
Mm.
went through this challenge of actually making something like this come to life. And people that so a bit about the play. This is important to being earnest by Oscar Wilde. And if you're not someone that enjoys Victorian period drama and all that, you probably won't enjoy it because of the language and stuff. But because of how they were, we had a crowd of 400 people that attended that event, and people were like raving about it like for like months after that, because they were like they enjoyed it, they knew what it was about, and they were so impressed to see the students take up that role.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean that was something that I was a part of, and those students actually still like keep in touch with each other. So that's something that is quite exciting for me. And now we have Facebook that reminds me of that every time. So I'm like, oh, this happened like in 2011. So yeah, and yeah, that was something that was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Joel. Yeah.
I can't measure up to Felicia. So, all the Victorian times and the months and months of, phrases. Well, as you all know, I'm not as dramatic as Felicia as well. But my projects are very muted in nature, lah. Not as again, lah, like Felicia. But I think that the latest one that I believe a lot in experiential learning. I believe a lot in bringing students out there. I mean, this semester I taught operations management. And I told my students, if it wasn't before the MCO, I'll probably bring you to a supermarket nearby and we'll go and look at the shelving and look at how the stocks are arranged but because of that, we couldn't do it. So a big believer of experiential learning. And I think that the last thing that I managed to do, which was comparatively minor, but I believe it had a very major impact on my students, was this interfaith tour that we did of a few of a few selected houses of worship around KL. So we started off. There was actually a very small group of us, about 20. I mean, KL, we're so small. So there was about 20, no, about 15 students, 10 to 15 students, and another about 4 lecturers. So that was before the MCO. So one way of getting everyone to and fro safely is we started using Grab. So I didn't want anyone taking the bus, and we didn't have the luxury of having a bus chartered and all that.
Yeah.
So we started with a visit to the mosque, the KLCC mosque, Masjid Al Sharikin, if I'm not mistaken. We went to the mosque and we had a tour of the mosque. We had a fellow lecturer who was Muslim give us a tour of the various praying areas, the various significance of it, and all that. And then, and it was very. I mean, it's probably my second time visiting a mosque. I was there previously for a wedding, but it was very heartening for me to see my non-Muslim students absorb that in, walking around and listening as to why do Muslims pray in this particular direction? Why do they take wudu before actually doing their prayers, ablutions, and all that? And then from the mosque, we then went to we went to Quail Sri Maha Mariaman, which is at Jalan Tun HS Lee. All right, and then this is actually the oldest Hindu temple in KL. It was quite historical, and we had a Hindu lecturer come and give us a whole tour. I mean, I'm not Hindu myself, but he knows way better than me. He was a better candidate. So he took them all and to see again this Muslim and Buddhist and Christian students take all of it in, the various deities that Hinduism is made up of, the various rituals, and what does this mean? What does that mean? And then after we crossed the road and we went to this. There's also a Chinese temple opposite this Hindu temple, and we went on a tour there, and we had a Chinese lecturer guide the students throughout the various rituals and all that. And after that, of course, me being Sikh, I had to bring everyone to the nearest Gurdwara, nearby ATC. So being able to bring them there and to show them and to know that students are 20, 21, 22, but they've never been to another house of worship. which for me is a rarity because you're in Malaysia, you're in the most culturally diverse place on earth, probably. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be familiar with another culture. So for me, I think it's not up there in terms of drama and pizzazz like what Felicia did, but it was a very nice um, a way to, because I was teaching cross cultural management, so the hence why we decided to do
It's
this.
very meaningful. It
Uh,
seems very meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was. And I was actually very, very surprised. Why didn't anyone think of it before? There's so many things to do and to experience here in Malaysia. We're going to talk about cross-cultural management. We're going to talk about multiculturalism. Malaysia is the best place to do it. So for me,
True.
that's probably the most valuable to date, lah. The most latest.
I think being creative is very important in what you do, whether you're doing a drama or whether you infuse it into your lesson by taking them out of the classroom or bringing an employer in for them to work on real life problems. I think all these elements are very important elements. I've done the whole this. I think I was teaching in Segi that time, and it was something to do with listening. I was teaching them active listening to psychology students, and Segi where it was in Penang, you can walk to the beach just down the road sort of thing where the
Yeah.
sea is. I got them to just stand there and listen. They were like, I can't hear anything. I said, listen carefully. Then they were like, oh, I can hear this moving. And, so you're right. Experiential learning is very, very important. The idea is exposure. So whether it's through, of course, the drama is like long-term project. It takes, it's like the events that we do and campaigns that we do. When you have those little nuggets of information. I think a colleague of ours in Indy previously, who's now in I think TAR, she used to take students to do that as well. What you were mentioning about going to supermarkets. So she used to teach them marketing. So she used to
Ah,
take them and that really sticks in their mind, right? Or take them to what we call farm in the city.
Yeah.
How would you package it, market it, things like that. So those real life experiences makes it stick in their head. Years from now, they're going to remember the
Yeah.
drama they pulled off. Years from now, they remember like, hey, Mr. Joel took us here. We went to this place, and it connects back. The funny part is like, hey, we never thought it could be that way. We never thought that this is what literature is about. We never thought that operation management or cross-cultural has to do with visiting
Yeah.
bosses. What you're doing is breaking down information for them, and that's amazing, I think. So to kind of start wrapping up, right? I wanna we are towards our last two questions, right? With employability being such an important aspect, right? There are a lot of complaints about graduates coming out, we're not good English, they don't have soft skills, they're not employable basically. And there's a lot of discussion of this in the media as well with employers. And I think, Joel, you have also experienced it being a person in corporate as well, seeing the kind of managers coming out and being your manager, right? And that's why you came into education. So what do you think is a major thing, one value, just one value you can give your student, right, to give them that edge in terms of employability that you think is the most important thing when they go out there? What is one value you can give them?
I think the ability to just go up to a person and just start talking. I think networking is a very, very valuable skill that every graduate should have. As a matter of fact, in KL, when I was chair of the Student Employability Committee, one of the things that we tried to do quite a number of times in KL was organize events. We organized a lunch once, and then the next time it was a high tea, where we got a select number of industry players and also those graduating students for that particular semester, their final semester. So we got these two groups together. It was a sit-down event, and then we it was like a speed dating kind of thing lah for potential employers and graduating students. You see, so we'll actually make all students name cards with their email addresses and their phone numbers. So we'll put students in groups of different employers, and then after 10 minutes, some of us will just steer them to the next group of employers. So I think networking is something very, very important because you never know, you might just be speaking to your next prized employer or employee. So
True.
that is what I want them to have, the bravery to actually go out and to say hello, hi, I'm so and so, how are you? The ability to just network with people because you never know who you're going to meet. That's very, very important.
You see, Felicia, how he did. He said he doesn't have any fantastic projects. no pizzazz, what was the word he used? All this.
Yes,
No,
it is drama.
but
He thinks
no,
he's
no.
not as dramatic as me. He actually is dramatic.
Well,
uh,
Right, Felicia? I
yeah.
mean, that is what we call, I mean, that because of
I'm very
course,
familiar with how Joel is, so yeah.
and I'm
So
aware of that project because I follow Joel quite actively on LinkedIn as well as Facebook. So I know he's done
yeah.
that. I was just thinking like, didn't he do that? And I was
Well,
just,
good thing you asked the question then, so he can't hide from it.
what about you, Felicia? What is one value you think is so important?
For me, I think students having the authenticity of just being themselves, because I think for a lot of students that sometimes that is very difficult for them to just be comfortable with who they are, and when they're comfortable with who they are or they own up to who they are, we realize a lot of things will align for them. They'll be able to take risks. They will be open to challenges because they know who they are. So for me, that's what I try to build in my students for them to have that authenticity of who they are.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, when
it is,
we're
it is.
talking about value, right?
Mm.
These elements are actually very crucial. Being authentic, you know, you have to be authentic first, then you can network, right? You need these two
Yeah,
things in combination. If not, it doesn't work well. And
yeah,
I like what you guys said because you see, a lot of people, especially with this whole digitization, we talk about digital marketing, we talk about online, but a lot of people forget that soft skills is so important. If you look at all the studies and research coming out, and even a recent LinkedIn study, it talks about soft skills. It talks about
mm,
people are forgetting these very important elements that human touch, and they're so
Yes,
focused on those digital skills that
exactly.
they don't understand that
yeah,
without human touch, without understanding who you are, how are you going to project whatever skills? Because skills are something that you can learn, right? You can learn how to create a website, you can learn how to do these are things that you can learn along the way, but things that
mm,
need to be built are things like, how authentic you are, networking. Those are soft skills that you need to have, on you to in order to operate all those others. If not, those things don't work. It's like well and
yep,
water, right? You have
yep.
a well to contain the water. You might have the water, but if you know it has to go with tandem with each other, and without one, it doesn't work.
Yeah, that can work.
Yeah,
True.
exactly.
I echo what Felicia said. I think that's very, very important. Trying to tell these students that it's okay to be yourself. The world is such that we like to box people up into different compartments. We
Yeah,
expect them to be like that son or this auntie's daughter. We forget that we are dealing with a unique human being who has so much to offer to the world. So that is a very, very, and I know Felicia, I'll kick myself for not thinking of that point earlier and wowing everyone about it. But that is very, very, very
Papa said, don't worry.
giving the students the confidence to be themselves. That is first
Yeah.
and foremost, I think, the most important.
yeah.
So I mean, this has been great, but we are already hitting 1 hour 15 minutes as I promised you
Oh
guys.
no, we don't have enough time.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I told you
Yeah,
it's gonna be quick.
Look at the drama coming out, Felicia.
I still want to hear Joel talk more. That's why.
Yeah, right. You could have always called Joel. Joel has not heard from you in the longest time.
I know, right?
Yeah.
so one last thing, okay, if you could leave the audience with one sentence, right, one advice to students out there, what would it be? As an educator, right, what would it be?
Go,
Oh,
Joel.
seriously?
Say
After
something
you left,
dramatic
Felicia.
out. You first.
You first, never mind.
Oh my god, so you can think, is it? That's why.
Exactly. So I can outshine you again.
um, so one thing, right, to say? Oh my god, so many things to say. But okay, one thing to say would be okay with who you are, and the rest will align itself. Mm. Top that, Joel. Top that.
Mhm.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Okay. Mine would be probably, I know it's a fad, or it's the trend out there to question the your educators. I mean, it's a fad. I mean, somehow, we all go through these students. the smallest dissatisfaction they have in college or in university, they go on Facebook and they write about it. And um, I think I tell my students this lie. The Malay word berkat, all right, berkat, right? If you are learning from someone, if you are learning from someone, you have to play a part in ensuring that whatever you're receiving from that person is in Malay we call it diberkati lah, is blessed. You know,
Mm.
if you are a student and you end up maligning or making fun of or demonizing your lecturers or your teachers out there, then there's this Asian thing of what you're going to learn is not going to be beneficial to you. You know, in Tamil, I think we have this saying called what Mata Pita Guru Devam. Yeah.
Mm.
So teachers are right up there on the same level as mother, father, and God. So to disrespect a teacher in any way through your conduct, through your speech, I think that is something. I've graduated. It's been more than 10 years since I graduated. I would never think. I would never even dream of addressing my teacher or my previous lecturer by their first name.
Mm.
No matter how far I've come, I'll always be, they'll always be my teacher, my lecturer, my educator, and they'll be treated with reverence. You see? So I think that's very important. Just give your teachers, give your lecturers a bit of a break once in a while. At the end of the day, a lot of us want what's good for you, not what's good for us.
Yeah.
That's a really great point. I think it's very important when we are talking about the learning process, right? For you to really receive that like berkat, that blessing, right, from whoever you're learning from. You must be open to receive it, and you must take it with an open heart and be respectful as well. You must understand who you're speaking to, and I think that applies not just to teaching, but in anywhere we're at, right? We have to be respectful to people, whether they are trainers, whether they are teachers, whether they are managers, and things like that. I think respect is a very important part, and being who you are, it's very difficult, Felicia, in this day and age, right? Where you have people all over social media. You have one side where they're complaining and insulting someone, and the other side where people are showing off this life that most of us might not have. And students, generation, younger people these days are living with that false reality of what this person's life is like, wow, she's already there and I'm not there yet, or she's doing so
Yeah.
much, nothing. So
Yeah.
having that false reality kind of pushes you down, and sometimes people don't realize that they should be okay with where they're at, because progress is different for everyone. And as
Exactly.
long as,
Exactly.
well said, right, as long as you're doing your best, you know
Yeah.
it's fine, because be accept who you are. I think that's a very, very good point for you guys to bring up, and I think that's a very nice and high note for us to leave the audience with. Be who you are, accept who you are, and respect the blessings that come from those who are teaching you, whether they are your lecturers, your trainers, your business partners, anyone, right, in life. I mean, I just talked about it yesterday in the show, and I said that education is not just confined to lecturers. It's not just confined to those in the classroom. Education is everywhere in every journey of our life. So we
Yeah.
need to respect that, and we need to keep an open mind. And thank you so much to all of you for being here today. I'm so glad that you all took the time. I know some of you are in
Yeah.
exams, and it's a very busy time
Okay.
for all of
Yeah.
us because of the pandemic and the switch online. And like Felicia was saying, she's teaching online and offline at the same time.
Same time. I don't know how that's gonna happen. Yeah.
Yes. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week or the week after that, and stay tuned. We'll let you know what's next on the tracks for Almost Graduate Show. But do catch us. We are having the next series of the Me series. Xiao San, maybe
Yeah.
you want to tell them some details about the upcoming Me series?
Okay. Our next Me series is going to be on Thursday, 13th. It's going to be at 7 p.m. at with our Facebook Live at Live as You Rise, and the topic is going to be about data, big data, and about understanding about data sciences, and how is data collection and information of data that we are sharing now is going to impact us in terms of our daily lifestyle, because we are used to getting a lot of applications, and then filling up a lot of forms, downloading a lot of stuff. So how does all these people actually use that information, to help to run, to move around in terms of the future of our, the future of the business and the future of the world, especially. So that's what we're going to talk about. So we have three very interesting speakers from different parts of the world who's going to come in to speak with us on Thursday. So please do show,
And
do,
different time
do
zones. I think one is in
yeah.
Belgium, one is
One is
in
in Belgium, one is in Melbourne, and then
Melbourne.
yeah, and then one is here,
Malaysia.
based here, yeah, based here in Malaysia.
There's
So
going
yeah,
to be a crazy time zone.
yes, yes.
So the time is what time, Jiasan?
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Yep.
Okay. So catch us next Thursday at 7 p.m.
Yes.
And thank you so much for tuning in. Bye,
Thank you
guys.
so much. Yay!
Bye.